dead last. This is America. Only 32% of fourth graders are proficient in reading. 42 million American adults cannot read at all. And 50 million are unable to read at a higher level that is expected of a fourth or fifth grader. So that's 92 million out of 300 million in the greatest nation on earth that are educationally deficient. And that number increases by some 2.25 million each year. 20% of all high school seniors are functionally illiterate. 13% of public school children were enrolled in special education. Half of those were considered learning disabled. And over half of all public schools reported a criminal incident to the police. And 10% of schools reported serious violent crimes. Now, this is not black statistics. This is the general American public. Now, I'll be more specific with black education statistics. Only 12% of black high school seniors are proficient readers, while 54% have below basic reading skills. It is estimated that 40 to 44% of blacks, that's almost half of us, are functionally illiterate. Black children are almost 3 times more likely than white children to be labeled mentally retarded. Blacks are 2.5 times more likely to be placed in remedial or low-track classes. Even when black students show potential that is equal to or above that of whites, they are 40% less likely to be placed in advanced or accelerated classes. 2/3 of so-called minorities in public school fail to reach basic levels of national tests. And there continues to be marked disparities between black and white students in the national SAT scores. 32% of all suspended students are black, and black students are twice as likely as whites to be suspended or expelled. The high school dropout rate in some inner city communities approaches 50%. And only 26% of blacks who do finish high school go to college, while 37% of whites go to college. College-educated blacks are 4 times more likely than whites to experience unemployment. Black women account for nearly all of the gains made in black enrollment in higher education since the mid-1980s. At black colleges, women make up 60% of enrollment and 80% of the honor rolls. Where will these women find appropriate mates among our men? babies with poorly educated mothers are more likely to die in the first year of life or have chronic health problems growing up. Blacks are dramatically underrepresented in many professions. They are only 3.2% of lawyers, 3% of doctors, and less than 1% of architects. Black males have both the lowest average level of educational attainment and the highest percentage, nearly 50% of workers with more education than their jobs require. So it doesn't make any difference what kind of education we have. The jobs that we have don't even require the kind of education that we have. White males with a high school diploma are just as likely to have a job and tend to earn just as much as black males with college degrees. And light-skinned blacks have a 50% better chance of getting a job than dark-skinned blacks. With statistics like this, if I were a doctor and the country were the patient in education, we could say that America has flatlined. With those kinds of statistics, then, this produces an educational challenge. And that's why we chose that subject, an educational challenge. And this is telling us the type of thing that we are and must be engaged in, which is to stimulate or challenge our intellect over the problem that is found in education. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that education is the torchlight of civilization. Civilizations begin with knowledge, and civilizations end when the knowledge that originated that civilization begins to decline, to come in. So, the idea at the root of Western education is that which controls Africa, Asia, Latin America, North America, the entire world. So when black, brown, Asian, and Arab students come to get Western education, they also get baptized into that idea of the dominion of the superior dominant people. Am I making any sense to you? That's why Africa cannot develop, because her scholars are educated in Europe and America, and they have that idea in their head that makes them sick and makes them abusers of their people. Watch this. Yes, I'm trying to be on it. I have another quote here for you from the great Right Honorable Marcus Garvey. Now, Mr. Garvey said, quote, "The present-day Negro or colored intellectual is no less a liar and a cunning thief than his illustrious teacher. His Occidental, meaning Western, collegiate training only fits him to be a rogue and a vagabond and a seeker after the easiest and best by following the line of least resistance. He's lazy, dull, and uncreative. His purpose is to deceive the less fortunate of his race, and by his wiles rides easily into position and wealth at their expense, and thereafter agitate for and seek equality with the creative and industrious whites. To every rule, however, there is the exception, and in this case, it must be applied. So there are blacks with education that really want to help their people. But many, if not most, don't really care. And if they do care, they don't have a solution. I care, but I don't know what to do. So, when we look at the problems of the society and the problems in education, it is demonstrative of the fact that this education and the idea that undergirds it has reached its end. And as the torchlight of this civilization is going out, that fact is reflected in the culture. The degeneracy of the culture. The degeneracy of the art form. Huh? It's reflected in the immorality, the debauchery, the lust for pleasure through drugs and sex. It's going down. The light of this is going out. Where is the refinement that goes with civilized behavior? People are just acting savage. And what is a savage? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught us that a savage is a person that has lost the knowledge of self and is living the life of a beast. So search the world and see the bestial behavior of human beings, one to the other. We are at the end of this world's knowledge. But the problems keep getting worse, and the price of education keeps getting higher.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So what is needed? What do we need, scholars? What is it that we need? Well, we need a new educational paradigm. Where will it come from? Who will bring it? And are we wise enough to recognize it when it comes? The Bible says, I thank thee, Father in heaven, for keeping these things from the wise and the prudent man and revealing them unto babes. Somebody's going to come up with a new educational paradigm, and it will not come from the wise and the prudent men of this world, because their wisdom is of this world, a world that is coming to an end. I'm glad that my brother, Father Flake, is here. Notice how I said that. I said, my brother. And I know what I'm talking about. We're going to go to another level now. And it's going to shock you, you know? Okay. Now here's where we get into the Word. The Bible says, in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. And that Word became flesh and dwelled among men. But the light shined in the darkness. But the darkness comprehended it not. He came unto his own, but his own received him not. Now, I'm talking now to Christians and Muslims and Jews and Buddhists and Hindus and Sikhs.
Come on, minister.
Because everybody is looking for a man. You're not looking for a spook. The Jews are looking for the Messiah. The Christians are looking for the return of Christ. The Muslims are looking for the Mahdi. All of these are men. Well, what are you looking to them for? What do you want them for? Harvard is sufficient. Yale is sufficient. University of Chicago is sufficient. Oh, no? Oh. You see, there's a man coming. Well, this is where I was trying to get. There's a man coming. And that man comes with a new knowledge, a new wisdom, a new understanding, a new idea that will bring in a new way of thinking, that will produce a new culture and a higher refinement, and give everyone who receives it the pursuit of happiness. Now, don't you want to be happy? I hear so many people talking about happiness. So I questioned, not the dictionary, I questioned myself. I said, well, what is happiness? See, happiness comes when a person understands their purpose for existence, and then they fulfill that purpose. And when one fulfills his or her purpose in life, the soul is satisfied. That soul has unspeakable joy.
Yes, sir.
Every human being should be able to pursue that which makes the individual happy. But in the world that we're living in, we all have the illusion of happiness. As if you go down the road, what do you think God gave you life in his universe for? What is your purpose? What is your purpose? What is your purpose? What is your purpose? What are you here for? Huh? What? You see the shoulder going. Are you happy? Are you really happy? Well, wait.
Go ahead.
In a world like this, who really is happy? See, how many human beings under this system of things have found that which truly makes them happy? No slave can be happy. And when you have educational system that has an elite at the top, and then a lesser elite and a lesser elite than the mass who work for the elite, and you look at your life, you work if you got a job, but that's not what you're born to do. You do it out of necessity because there's a salary at the end of the week that allows you to pay the car note, the mortgage, go to the grocery store and feed yourself, put some clothes on your back and on the backs of your children. But how many of you really have anything saved? That's not happiness. That's a slave existence. And that is not the intention of the Creator for you. Now watch this. Everything that God creates is found trying to fulfill its purpose. True? And if it fulfills its purpose, it's equal to everything else in creation. Some people say, well, it's not the man, it's the system. Well, that's like saying it's not the spider, it's the web.
Right.
But the spider produced the web. And all systems come out of the mind of men and women. So a man is coming, that's the point. And in him is the idea for the new. In him is the paradigm shift. In him is not a finite world, but in him is a world that has no end. It is so magnificent that it's called everlasting life. World without end. Now, I want to talk about Jesus. You say, well, you Muslim. You should be talking about Muhammad. When I talk about the Muhammad, I be talking about Jesus. I don't see division. I'll get to this at another time, but the whole world of religion needs to evolve out of where it presently is. Listen, just listen now.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I want to talk about a man
Yes, sir.
that pastors preach about.
Go ahead. Come on.
But I'm not sure that we really know
Come on, minister.
that man. I'm going to lay down some standards now,
My God.
and you measure your knowledge of the man, Jesus the Christ. Now, Jesus was among the people, and he never told the people who he was. Are you listening?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But at a certain point in his earthly ministry, he asked the disciples, who do they say I am? Because the people were talking about him. They didn't quite know who he was, but they knew he was something special. So they said, well, he was that prophet Jeremiah. He's that prophet Isaiah. He's the one that was prophesied to come. And then Jesus looked at his disciples and said, and who do you say the Son of Man is? Now, he used the term Son of Man. He introduced himself to everyone as the Son of Man. But when he asked the disciples, who do you say I am? Peter answered. He said, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. Now that's the first time he's introduced as the Son of God. Just, you all got to pardon me, but I am so full. So if some of you thought that I was relaxing or relapsing in the sun, I've been studying and preparing for a time when it will be appropriate for me to speak. The media was all out here today wanting to come in. And I'm sure Father Flake of the media is in here too. I don't know why they're so interested in what I have to say. Except that they want to search it. To see what is in it that they could use to ill affect the situation of our brother, who is closer than any black man has ever been to becoming the President of the United States. But I know you're here, but you can get the tape. And it's on webcast. So you can access it. But follow then this if you're looking for something. Jesus then looked at Peter and said, flesh and blood did not reveal this to you. Then he told him something strange. Go and tell no one. Well, wait a minute. If a man is among you working and he doesn't tell you who he is, and some are wondering, is he this, is he that, is he the other? And then one bold disciple really says who he is and he knows you got me. Then he tells him, flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but don't you go and tell anyone. Now Jesus was among the people, and then at a certain point, especially in the book of John, he begins the 7 I ams. Now, I is a personal pronoun, the subject of this sentence and this discourse. Am is the verb to be. Isn't it interesting that when Moses went to the burning bush and then God told him what he wanted him to do, he said, but the people are going to ask me, who did you meet? Who told you? Who sent you? He said, tell them, I am that I am. Well, what kind of name is that? I am that I am. Oh, that's too heavy. And then Jesus is about to leave his disciples, and he starts talking about I am. Now watch this. See, I'm talking to educators and teachers and scholars, because this is who you're looking for. You're really looking for the solution to the problem of education, but it's not in the system that nurtured you. It's in a man. Look. He says, I am the bread of life. If you eat, you will never hunger. And if you believe, you shall never thirst. Stop. Now, this is an educator coming.
Yes, sir.
This is a man that's telling you, I am. I exist as. I am what you've been looking for.
Come on, minister.
I am the bread of life. What you mean, the bread of life? He said, well, what is life? The scripture said, life is to know God and to know his son. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, life is the embodiment of three great principles: freedom, justice, equality. So when a man says, I am the bread of life, if you eat my flesh, you will never hunger. And if you believe, you will never thirst. That's a man bringing with him the knowledge to give freedom, justice, and equality to every living being on our planet. And he has a knowledge that if you eat, you won't get hungry.
Come on, minister.
Because it's so eternal, that knowledge, that you keep on going from knowledge to knowledge to knowledge. You'll never get hungry, and you'll never be thirsty. Where is that man? I want to meet a man like that, as it was in the days of Noah. So shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. As it was in the days of Lot in Sodom and Gomorrah, so shall it be, future tense, at the coming of the Son of Man. In the book of Matthew, they show the Son of Man coming, but he's not coming from the sky. As lightning shines from the east even unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Now look. See, when you meet the Son of Man, you too can start saying, I am. See, now I'm going to, all educators, this is the way you start in preschool. Listen. The prophet said, ye are all God's children of the Most High God. He didn't say you a Negro, you a Shine or a Hambone or a Coon. Ye are all God's. Every human being, regardless of their color or their ethnic origin or their race, is a God with potential to master. When you have a child in school and you tell that child that you are a God. See, but in our kindergarten, they showed us little black Sambo. Oh, you ain't that old, but I'm old. They had this little black Sambo. And I had to identify with Sambo. I didn't identify with God. There was Spot. The only thing black on Spot was the spot on spot. And poor little black child trying to find out, where do I belong in this drama? And because you're black, the blacker you are, the worse it is because you don't know where you fit in a world like this that glorifies white and what is near white. How in the heck does somebody that's real dark feel when they see nothing that they can identify with that makes them proud to be what God made them? But when you tell that little child, you're all God. So you start in school with this kind of walk. Did you create anything that you studied? Or you didn't? You didn't create the leaf that you studied. You didn't create the rock that you're studying. You didn't create the reptile that you're studying. You didn't create the tree or the bush from which you got some herbs and medicine. You didn't create it, but you studied it. And the Holy Quran says, in everything that Allah created, in it, there's a lesson for man, if man would be mindful. So the Caucasian studies what God created and becomes a scientist. But how you gonna knock God out of the classroom? You know why you do that, Satan? See, I have to call Satan out now. I'm not talking to the common white people, the common black people. No, you ain't Satan. You're too dumb to be Satan.